Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to another episode of the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Summer has officially arrived here in the UK, and I found myself working in the great outdoors. And my biggest problem is trying to see my laptop screen through the bright sunshine. But hey, these are great problems to have, right? Now, today's guest is Stacey Epstein, and she's the CEO of a San Francisco startup called Zinc, and they've got a fantastic story to share. And it would be tempting to put Zinc, founded by two former Yammer employees, into the same bucket as Slack, Microsoft Teams, and a myriad of other team collaboration tools that have popped up in recent years. But Stacey, the former SAP and ServiceMac exec, took over Zinc, which was formerly Cotap, 2 years ago. But Zinc is selling the mobile messaging app to a completely different audience. In fact, most of Zinc's users don't even have desks. Their offices are trucks, delivery vehicles, or far-flung job sites. And this represents a massive number of users. In fact, according to Google, deskless workers now account for 72 to 80% of the global workforce. Now let that sink in for a moment. Because deskless workers universally despise email and rarely even use a computer. And in many cases, Zinc is replacing pen and paper within an organisation. In others, it replaces existing digital tools throughout much of the company, including email and texting. It's a fantastic story, and I hope it's going to change your perception of indeed tech, and maybe even the world around you and that global workforce and how you perceive the world. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to San Francisco so we can speak with Stacey Epstein from Zinc. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Stacey. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure, of course. Thank you, and happy to be here. So I'm Stacey Epstein. As you know, I'm the CEO of a technology company called Zinc, which we'll talk about here in a minute. My background is enterprise software. I've been in the enterprise software game since the 90s, working at Oracle, and worked my way up through the ranks in a variety of sales and marketing positions. Ended up as the first marketer and head of global marketing for SuccessFactors from the early days up through the IPO, and left just before the $3.5 billion acquisition by SAP. From there, I went to a company called ServiceMax, where I was employee 15 and I was the CMO there and helped build that company up through just before a $1 billion acquisition by GE. So up the ranks through marketing and now doing the CEO gig.
Wow, that's incredible. I must admit, though, when I first heard about Zinc, and that it was a team communication tool, I instantly thought of Slack, Atlassian, Microsoft Teams, and a myriad of other team collaboration tools that have popped up over in the last few years. But the reason I invited you on today is because you're serving a completely different audience. So just to set the scene, can you tell the listeners a little about Zinc and what makes it different from all the other platforms out there?
Yeah, I think your reaction is a very common reaction that I face when I start talking about Zinc. And I think partly that's because we run in the same circles where we're talking about technology a lot, and we're talking about the tech industry and some other similar industries. But when I talk to our customers in the markets that we serve, many of them have never even heard of Slack or Atlassian. Yeah. So we focus on what we call deskless workers. And these are people that are not sitting in an office, not sitting staring at a computer like you and I probably are. They're out in the field. They're helping customers. They're field service technicians. They're hotel workers. They're home health care nurses. They are retail store clerks. They do not use a computer or really even any kind of a device to do their job. Now, you and I, you're going to go edit this podcast. I'm going to go back and maybe catch up on email. We use a computer very frequently to do our job. These workers use their hands to fix something. They use their mouth to talk to people. And because of this, they're inherently away from the knowledge of the rest of the organization, whether it's in a piece of content or in somebody else's brain that could help them do a good job. So let me give you a bit of a specific example of a customer. Dish Network, which you may not know Dish, being that you're in the UK, but here in the US, pretty much everybody knows Dish. They're a cable satellite provider, so they'll come and they'll put a satellite on your roof, and you get hundreds of great channels of television and internet service. They have thousands of technicians that are in the field that go door to the homes and set up the service. Now, there's a lot of technology that gets that technician to the door: field service management, scheduling, parts tracking. But when they get to that door and ring the doorbell, there are countless things that they could encounter on the other side of that door. And whether it's, every wiring in every house is different, every access to every roof is different, the product that they're maybe uninstalling or installing may have issues, or maybe they witness something in the home that they can't decide whether they should report it or not. It's really, they can face anything. And to expect that every single technician is going to have the knowledge to solve whatever they come to is expecting a lot from these technicians, which is why retention is an issue, engagement is an issue in many of these deskless industries. Now, if you give them easy access to the expertise that resides across the organization, and whether that's easy communication and collaboration with peers, with their manager, whether it's a hotline group that they can quickly go to do a video call and show somebody else the problem and have that expert solve the problem for them, that's what we do. So we connect deskless workers to the knowledge, information, and answers in real time that can help them do a better job.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I read a mouth-watering stat recently that deskless workers actually account for between 72 and 80% of the global workforce, which is just astounding, especially because I think we're so obsessed with technology now. So do you have any use cases to help listeners understand how you're using technology to transform that entire industry, like the guy at Dish, where people don't just sit at a desk all day?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in addition to, so Dish is certainly a good example, and I should explain that I didn't even really explain what Zync is, but we offer all modes of communication. So that field service technician, in the moment of needing access to information, it's text, it's voice, it's video, it's group calling, it's live streaming, push to talk, so the phone can act like a walkie-talkie, it's content sharing, location sharing, it's pretty much any mode of connection to the other, to the knowledge in their organization. So a couple of other use cases: hotels. I mean, we have many Marriott properties that are replacing those clunky, expensive radios with Zync on their phones. And now, not only can they get rid of the radio and they can use the radio functionality in Zync, but they also, sometimes they're in the back of a dark conference room and they need to tell somebody else in the organization something. They don't want to talk on a radio. Now they can text. Now they can share their location. They can share a file. They can do a quick video. So it really not only is great ROI on an upgraded device, but it gives them alternative ways for better communication. One more use case, which is a more recent one, a large utility here in the U.S. is using Zync, and they were working on a leak on a transformer. Now, you can imagine that that's a pretty serious situation. We're talking about gas and energy for thousands of residential customers and organizations, and the large transformer is leaking. And the guys on the job weren't exactly sure what to do in this dire situation. And so they got on Zync and they said, hey, here's a video. What do we do? And some of the other more junior technicians in the organization said, hurry up, plug that leak. We got to make sure we keep all of our customers online. And some of the experts in the organization say, shut it down and run like hell. And the answer was, shut it down and run like hell. And because those experts or Jedis in the organization were in the conversation, they were able to give that tribal knowledge that you only get from years of expertise. And maybe their customers were down for a short period of time until they could fix it, but they potentially saved lives by avoiding a very drastic situation. So sometimes it's about the front desk worker at the hotel communicating with the housekeeper, and sometimes it's a life and death situation on a transformer in a large utility.
I love how you are combining all the modes of communication in one simple mobile app, and equally how it works across mobile devices, desktops, and ensuring that the necessary compliance, security and central administration, etc. But we are living in the age of the API as well. So can you tell me what kind of content-related integrations and workflow systems that it works with as well?
Yes, of course. And I haven't mentioned, I mentioned a lot of the end user features. We are an enterprise solution. So we do have an administration. You can set up groups. You can sync to your Active Directory. We've got HIPAA compliance and SOC 2 compliance and security. But also, as you mentioned, we do integrate to other workflow systems. So for example, we integrate to ServiceMax, which is a very popular field service management solution where work orders are handled. And there's information that may reside in a work order that needs to be passed into a conversation. And so we would integrate directly, pass that information into a conversation, and then perhaps the discussion that happens around the work order, you would want to retain a link to that information in the work order. So we're passing information to and from ServiceMax. So that's one example. We integrate to ServiceMax, we integrate to Salesforce, we integrate to the popular content management solutions like Box and Dropbox, and we have a variety of systems that we integrate directly to, and we also offer a public messaging API to integrate to other systems that we haven't built the integration for yet.
One question I've got to ask is, when it comes to CEOs and enterprises, what kind of problems are they coming to you with? And essentially, how are you helping to achieve those objectives and solve their problems for them with Zinc?
Yes, sure. It's interesting. Sometimes at the highest level of the organizations get it even better than the ones that have their nose deep in the business, because you have that high level perspective of, okay, in these industries, again, turnover rates are typically high. These are shift-based workers. Turnover is typically high. So engagement is a big issue. Getting them engaged, staying connected to them, helping them. You can imagine a dish guy shows up at the door. That's a stressful situation. And if he has that confidence that whatever he faces, the knowledge and the support of the companies behind him, he's going to not only do a better job, he's going to be happier in his job. So engagement and retention is a big one. Also, it just comes down to productivity. Many of the business metrics, if you look at a cable operator or a large utility, they're measuring job completion rate. How quickly can I get that satellite dish installed? How quickly can I get how quickly can I make sure my customer is enjoying and using the service that I offer? And if there's an issue, you got to fix it fast. So sending a technician that can't fix it and having to send somebody else on another day, it's terrible for job completion. It's terrible for customer sat. So giving them the ability to, hey, I don't know how to fix it, but I know somebody who does, and I can get to them quickly and solve it. It's productivity, it's efficiency, it's engagement, and ultimately it's customer satisfaction. So it's all the main metrics that most CEOs and most organizations are looking to solve. And we've seen some great success with our customers.
Now, you are transforming industries with technology-based solutions, but for deskless workers, I've got to ask, do you face any resistance from workers who've never used tech before? And if so, how do you approach that culture change of getting everyone on board to adopt this technology in your solution?
I will tell you, it has gotten way easier than it used to be. And the reason, and as I said, I've been in enterprise software since the 90s. The reason is that in the 90s, if you wanted to use technology, you were getting out a big clunky computer and you were logging on. Now everybody's got a phone in their pocket, and everybody is using technology all day long in their personal lives. And nobody's emailing their spouse or their friends about dinner. They're texting. So they are using this exact type of technology all day, every day. And that really gives us an advantage in focusing on this demographic of the workforce, is that because we have followed a very similar user experience to the popular messaging apps, literally you can pick up Zinc and you can use it within minutes. I mean, we rolled out Dish to thousands of technicians in 2 weeks. There was a 1-hour training course. And again, so yes, traditionally adoption of enterprise technology by a demographic that isn't used to using technology at work has been hard. But I believe the way we've architected Zinc makes it very easy for them to just say, oh, this is just like what I use in my personal life. How awesome that I have something as easy to use and intuitive as this for work.
That's fantastic. Now, you are a woman that has spent over 25 years in the tech industry. Like you said at the beginning of the show, previously you were the CMO at ServiceMax, which was acquired by GE for $1 billion, and VP of Global Marketing at SuccessFactors, that went on to be acquired by SAP for $3.4 billion. So I've got to ask, I mean, has the tech industry changed much in your career? And also attitudes, have they changed at all?
Yes, well, yes, I am a woman. Thank you for recognizing that. And I mean, I think I've seen it change drastically, and honestly, largely for the positive. I remember early days at Oracle. There were very few female role models in leadership positions, and many of the ones that did not have families, did not have kids. They were basically had given up the rest of their lives in order to be successful in the job. And I don't think that's true today. I think certainly we still have a long way to go, but the opportunity to become a CEO as a woman definitely exists. And I think there is so much dialogue about it now that it's only opening more doors. And again, we have a long way to go. I mean, I think I saw a stat, there's something like 24 of the Fortune 500 have women CEOs. I mean, that is just a miserable stat. Yeah. But I also think that sea changes take time. And the dialogue that's happening and the opportunities and just the attitudes of the younger women that I see coming up through the workforce are changing. And I have two little daughters, and I'm super excited for what the business world will be like by the time they get out of college and strive to do whatever they want to do. I hope that they feel that they can do whatever they want to do, and that their gender or any other preference will not hold them back.
Yeah, I think you're so right in what you're saying there, because so much progress has been made, but it's still astounding that we're having to have this conversation right now, isn't it? But, so what is the biggest lessons you've learned from your time in tech that you could pass on to somebody else that's at the beginning of their career or just beginning in the tech industry?
Oh, boy. We could do a 3-hour long podcast. I still learn lessons every day. In fact, I would say my last 2.5 years of being a CEO, I've probably learned as many lessons in that role as I have across my entire career. I think the biggest lessons I've learned are to focus on the here and now, and doing a great job in the here and now. Now, certainly we all have our eyes toward what we want to be, but people ask me all the time, okay, I want to be a CEO someday. What should I do? And I certainly never in my 20s said, okay, I'm going to plan this out and eventually I'm going to be a CEO. I just focused on doing a really awesome job in the job I was in currently and figuring out what I was going to do next. So I mean, in some ways, it sounds like I'm saying have a short-term viewpoint, but I do think kicking butt in what you're doing today is what leads you to that next promotion and that next opportunity, and you should always be looking for that. But to waste time thinking about how you're going to ultimately get to that long-term goal, to me, it's like, just get it done today and think about what's next. That, I would say, would be my biggest lesson and piece of advice.
Excellent advice. So what's next for Zinc? Is there anything else that you can share with us today?
Yeah, well, we are doing a lot of innovation around our specific customers and industries that we serve. Again, like we don't typically sell to tech companies or other more traditionally white collar workforces like the Slacks and Atlassian. So when you see the things they're doing, they're pretty different from what we're doing. We're focusing on building out more functionality like our hotlines where you can quickly get to an expert. We're doing a lot of innovation around broadcasts, so that one-to-many communication of something that's either urgent or important that you've got to get out to your field immediately, and you got to get it to people that are not just sitting there reading their email. So that's an area. Certainly more integrations. I mean, longer term, we're looking at the impact of AI and beefing up our bot capability. So a lot of really interesting stuff coming down the pike for Zinc.
Exciting times for you guys.
Yes, it is.
Well, a huge thanks for coming on today. But before I do let you go, can you remind the listeners of where they can find you online and maybe contact a member of your team if they have any questions or just want to carry on the conversation that we started today?
Yes, of course. Thank you for the opportunity. So our website is www.zinc.it, which we like to say Zincit, and that's ZINC, like the element. And you can certainly reach out to me at any time. My email is Stacey, Stacey, @zinc.it, or you can reach out to, I believe it's Team Zinc, TEAM. You guys know how to spell Team Zinc, @zinc.it. And we'd love to chat with you.
Fantastic. Well, like we said at the beginning of the show there, deskless workers account for between 72 and 8% of the global workforce. And universally, they despise email and rarely even use a computer. So the fact that you've got a solution here that's being embraced, being adopted, is just fantastic. So a big thank you for opening my eyes up and sharing your story today.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. It was great to chat with you.
It was a genuine pleasure speaking with the inspirational Stacey there, talking about her background and her very personal story, and also where enterprise communication is heading in the context of deskless workers. And if you remember one thing from today's episode, I want you to remember that deskless workers account for between 72 and 8% of the global workforce. What a staggering stat. Although our TV screens may like everyone to believe that everybody works in offices, it's actually completely the opposite. And hard-working individuals whose offices are their trucks, their delivery vehicles, this massive number of users is the overwhelming majority of the global workforce. And how is tech making their life easier? That's why I think it was so important to get their story told today, and also how Zinc are helping. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, your insights, your expertise, your experience, and you can share that by emailing me at techblogwriter@outlook.com or tweeting me at Neil C. Hughes. Now, the only other problem about recording a podcast in this great, beautiful summer that we're having at the moment is a few of those pesky flies have suddenly found their way into my studio and is buzzing past the mic every few seconds. And I'm going to deal with that first world problem in the most humane way, of course, and I'll return tomorrow with another great guest. So a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.